Good morning, everybody. Calva Daddy here. Wishes you a happy Saturday morning. Welcome to part 2 of my new series, The Murder of Bill J. Pumpernickel II. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. This is Chapter 2, The Answer Lies Within the Mines. So, 1 week after the murder, November 2nd, 1887, the photos taken of the crime scene are finally developed, and what they found in the photos, they printed about 10 of them. 10 of them were taken. Those further solidified Tom Richards' theory that there were multiple intruders because of the footprint patterns. Around the stairs, up the stairs, and throughout the house, there were multiple sets of dirty footprints. They couldn't tell exactly how many, but the answer was clear that there were multiple intruders. So soon after this, police and the investigators start questioning people present on Mr. Pumpernickel's final days. Those were his cabinet members, people who were friends with him, and maybe just people on the streets who just happened to know something. So these investigations went on for a couple of days, and several people, both from Pumpernickel's cabinet, however, there were mostly people from the streets, several people noticed that on the evening of Pumpernickel's murder, October 27th, around 5 p.m., people claimed to have seen a horse and buggy patrolling the streets around where Pumpernickel lived. Around 5 p.m., the detectives had a light bulb moment. They leaned over and said, "Okay, can you tell us what this driver looked like?" And there were differing opinions, but people were able to decide on a Caucasian white male, late 30s, an Amish-like chin-strap beard, and brown hair and glasses. So officers now had something to go by. So this was very exciting. However, one setback they had was they did not have a name yet. However, they had a face. So a sketch was drawn of the people's descriptions, and it was housed in a filing cabinet until further notice. So on November 7th, 1887, soot tracked inside the house was determined to be coal dust. Now, how this was possible, basically on the day of the crime scene, they had a special guy walk inside the house, sweep up some of the dust, and put it in a jar and diligently inspect it. Now, diligently inspecting something in 1887 basically just meant looking at it and determining whatever the hell it was. However, this guy was pretty smart, and he determined that that soot was coal dust. Even one more light bulb moment for the officers. There was a coal mine in Rattlesnake County called Buchanan's Cave, and among those miners, they were largely Democratic, and they did not like Bill J. Pumpernickel due to the mentioned miners' budget cut of 1872. They complained that their lives were already hard enough, and then this big old guy went along and made their lives even harder. So the largely Democratic coal miners didn't really like Bill J. Pumpernickel, but they wouldn't want to murder him, right? Well, that's the same question that Tom Richards and Jack Robinson were asking. Who in this mine would want to kill Bill J. Pumpernickel? So a couple days later, on November 11th, 1887, Robinson and Richards take a trip up the 5-mile horse ride to Buchanan's Cave. So they come to the entrance, and these guys do not fit in. They're wearing suits and ties, they're dressed up, they're formal, their hair's combed, and a guy walks out of the mine, overalls, covered in dust, and he spots the two investigators and says, "May I help you, gentlemen?" "Yes. Um, who is the leader of your coal mine? Who's your boss?" "Oh, you must be talking about Mr. Buchanan. I'm sorry, he isn't available right now." Darn it. Both of the investigators walked away, but they were determined to find out. They were determined to talk to this Mr. Buchanan guy. So 8 days later, in walks to the investigation room John Jacob Buchanan, the boss of Buchanan's Cave. He is 57 years old. He has long, down to the chest, graying, balding white hair, and a thick beard. He's about 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighs about 200 pounds. Muscular for his age, and he says he's the type of guy that he won't retire until his body retires. Ha ha ha, comedy. So anyway, in walks John Jacob Buchanan. He, according to Tom Richards, makes an attempt to look nice. He's wearing a dirty blue collared shirt and jeans. Not the fanciest look, but when you're a coal miner, times are tough. You're just gonna have to make do. So John Jacob Buchanan sits down, and immediately the investigators knew that he hated the formality. I mean, if you're working in a coal mine for 40 plus years, then you're gonna hate some formality. He says like, this place sucks. Like, I wanna go to a saloon, get a drink. Like, that's where I could talk to you guys. And Richards and Robinson look over at each other, just like, are you sure? Like, we don't really like saloons. Like, I've had a tough history with saloons, says Jack Robinson. It's like, oh, come on, I insist. They're just like, oh, okay, fine. So that very same night, at around 9 p.m., John Jacob Buchanan, Tom Richards, and Jack Robinson head out to a saloon. They sit in one of the farther away booths near the exit just to kind of talk. It's dimly lit. It's lit by candles. And this is where John Jacob Buchanan, with a glass of beer in hand, sits back and gives the investigators some very much needed information. So, like I said before, the population of the coal miners, which made up about 25% of the whole Rattlesnake County, was largely Democratic and really didn't like the Republican Mr. Bill J. Pumpernickel. John Jacob Buchanan insists that no miner was out to harm Mr. Pumpernickel. However, he says one miner in particular really, really, really didn't like Bill Pumpernickel. Oh my gosh. The officers lean forward. "Mr. Buchanan, can you tell us a name?" Mr. Buchanan sits back and says, I get new miners every day. I really can't. I don't really remember his name. I could give you a first name, though. His name was Nathan. Okay. Officers pull out their pad. They write down the name Nathan. "Is there any other information you could give us?" "Well, he had always told me that he was from Eastern Europe. His family immigrated there before he was born." Okay, European. "Do you have a last name, Mr. Buchanan?" It started with an A. I don't really know. It was something European. Okay, strange European last name. Okay. Physical appearance, height. He told me that he was, let's see. He's been working for me last summer. He was about 20. He was about 20 years old. Shaggy black hair. About 5'9", 150. And unfortunately for you guys, that's really all I can remember. Mr. Buchanan, you helped us out a lot. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. So anyway, can you tell us about this Nathan guy? So he's been working for me summer of last year, summer of '86. He loved his job. One day he just walked in and said like, hey, my name is Nathan. I need a job. My parents, like, we're barely getting by. I'm still living with my parents, so like I need a job. So I handed him a pickaxe and a lantern, and I just said, go at it. I'm like, do you know how to break rocks? And he said, yep. So he walked. So he would work. He would work about 9 hours a day, and he would always leave around 3 or 4 p.m. And according to John Jacob Buchanan, one of his buddies would pick him up and they would both gallop off on their horses together, possibly to hang out, maybe get a drink. The officers leaned in and said, Mr. Buchanan, can you give us a name for this friend? Nathan. Nathan never told me. A bit of a setback, but, we possibly have 2 people who are connected. Can you give me a physical appearance of this guy, Mr. Buchanan? Yeah, I didn't really get a good look at him. I mean, once Nathan told me he was leaving, I didn't really check on him that much. I mean, one day I saw him, maybe 6 feet, 2 inches tall, brown hair, but that's all I could give you. Similarly aged. I don't know. It's all I could give you. Mr. Buchanan, what were Nathan's habits in the weeks and months leading up to the murder? So, like I said, he would always leave work around 3 to 4 p.m. However, in the months leading up to Mr. Pumpernickel's death, he would start to leave earlier, like at around 2. I didn't really think anything of it, he was just leaving. However, this is a big however, in, I want to say mid-October, Nathan told me that with great regret that he would be leaving Buchanan's cave and that he had found an opportunity in the neighboring state of Nevada. And he told me that, I wish you luck, and I'm going to head off. And that was the last time I've ever seen him. I haven't heard from him or his buddy ever since. Oh my gosh. Well, the detectives shake Mr. Buchanan's hand, saying, "Good day to you, sir." And then they head off. So the next morning, they review their notes. Okay, we have a coal miner. His name is Nathan. Probably has a weird European last name. About 20, shaggy black hair. Hated Pumpernickel. One thing they didn't get from Buchanan is if Nathan owned a gun. They couldn't determine the shell casings found at the crime scene. However, they were kept in storage, and hopefully one day they were able to be identified. However, at this time in mid-November of 1887, identification is not likely. So it's now December of 1887, and the detectives have 2 key points. Who was driving the buggy, and what is Nathan's last name? That's all I got for this week. Tune in next week for Chapter 3 of the murder of Bill J. Pumpernickel. Calvadaddy, signing off. Peace.